What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy TreJuanJohnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Just please make sure you keep those comments respectful. And if you're interested in supporting your favorite podcast, yours truly, your boy's Cash App will be in the episode description. Now, I know what you guys are here for. Obviously, the main topic today is going to be the Saints final mock draft that I put together. Um, and I'll do all the precursors once I get to that segment. But I got to cover the Final Four. And honestly, this was probably one of the better tournaments in a long time, especially on the men's side. On the women's side, I think obviously we got to wait until about the Sweet 16 to really get to the really good games. I think unfortunately Juju got hurt within those games, so we didn't really get all the matchups right, especially with the star power on the women's side that we would have loved to have going down the stretch. But it was really good, and I think the men's side, and I'm not alone in this. I think almost everybody I've heard from in the national media, just even looking down the timeline, there was a big kind of talk about, we don't have Cinderellas anymore, but I think we got some of the most high level basketball we've gotten in a long time. And I think it's because, you got the top four number one, like the four number one seeds made it to the final four, and they played like it. Those matchups showed that. And I think we got a really good brand of basketball. I'm going to start on the men's side because, of course, the men's side disappointed me the most because Duke choked an opportunity away at making to a national championship game. I mean, an 11-1 to run, 11-1 run in what, a minute and some change? Like, that was crazy. Then 6-point lead with 30 seconds left and you lose that. Like, I have no words for that, right? I think it was just bad effort by players, bad coaching, bad situational coaching, and I think impressive effort by Houston, impressive situational coaching by Coach Kelvin Sampson, and what he and his staff were able to do and get out of his young men, even though it looked like the game could have been over. I mean, Duke had a 14-point lead, couldn't keep it, and choked, and Houston took advantage. And of course, Florida, they were down, I think, at one point in time, 9 points to Auburn in the second half, and Auburn had things rolling. I felt like Auburn went away from Broome a little bit too much. I think he had it going in the paint. They refused to double him. They wanted to let Condon and Howe, I think is how you pronounce his last name. They wanted to let those guys go one-on-one with Broome, and he was taking advantage. And if he wasn't getting, a good layup opportunity or to the free throw line or being able to kick it out to his shooters who were having a phenomenal game as well, I mean, they were kind of getting everything they wanted. Then I think they kind of started getting lazy, started playing around with the ball. Their guards maybe wanted to take more of an initiative, I think, and it just hurt them. Um, and Charles Barkley alluded to them, maybe not taking chances to run when they could and wanting to slow the game and wanting to muck it up. And it just got to a point where they weren't going to their best player when they needed to the most. And Florida did. And Walter Clayton Jr., like he did all season, right? But even all tournament, just taking over when his team needed him the most. And those guys were able to storm back, beat Auburn, make it to the national championship game where they rallied again. They were down 12, I think, at one point to Houston. It looked like Houston might have it in the bag just because they were kind of getting whatever they wanted, getting to the lane, getting to the free throw line. And Florida just kind of flipped the switch. They went on an 11-0 run, I think it was, got the game within reach, ended up taking the lead. They, Houston kind of let Florida hang around. And a part of that hanging around was Richard, sorry, for Florida, and he kind of paced the game for them. Walter Clayton had 0 points well into the second half. Had only had one shot attempt, and I think in like a 18-minute span of playing time. And Houston just left too much time and afforded too many opportunities. They started turning the ball over. Florida started getting out on the break, which is their game. Started getting some easy transition layups. Just in, with the defense not being able to set up, Walter Clayton started to, attack the rim aggressively, get to the line. Then his shot started to fall, and Florida just clamped on defense. They just flipped the switch and they were able to do it. And this was just something they happened to do all tournament long. Like they had been down a number of times during this tournament, and it just didn't phase them. It was almost as if they told themselves, "Hey, y'all, we got to get down to really play our best game," and it just never backfired on them, and they were able to win the championship. Of course, Houston had a shot. They went for the win. They were down 2 points, and unfortunately, Sharp he just panicked. And here's the thing, you feel for the kid. He's probably imagined that shot millions and millions of times growing up, and just even as a player now, he envisioned having that opportunity and having a chance to win a national title and it being on his shoulders. And he called his number. I mean, a lot of people said, "Oh well, they should have went to LJ Cryer," and maybe they could have. He's their best player, but Sharp had a really good look. I think coming off the pin down, he had a really good look. But Walter Clayton made a heck of an effort to close out. And here's the thing, a guy who didn't have his best offensive game by any stretch of the imagination, he stayed the course. He stayed aggressive. He made his presence known. And in the biggest moment in the game, Walter Clayton, who's Florida's best offensive player, made the best defensive play of the night and at least closed enough to where, one, he was under control. I want to make sure I give him credit for that because he could have been out of control, resulted in a foul. Houston shooting 3 free throws to win the game, right? But he did enough to make Sharp panic, and Sharp, like, he had already left his feet, and he tried to drop the ball and couldn't touch it, obviously, because it would have been a travel and his time ran out. But man, shooter got to shoot. I know he's going to think about that moment for the rest of his life. Honestly, I mean, hell, as a former athlete myself, you think of the moments that you didn't take advantage of more than the moments, the good moments, right? And so you hope he has another opportunity. Houston has been in this position a number of times. I think this is their second national championship game in the Kelvin Sampson era, right? Um, and just fell short again. And so you feel for the kids, in that regard. And but you got to shout out and feel love for the team that did get it done, and that being University of Florida. Shout out to my boy B Fog, aka Ghost. Um, Big Florida fan, every sport you can think of. I think he might be a water polo fan or something like that. When it comes to the Florida Gators, and so I know he's happy and excited. I wish it would have been, his team versus my team, but that's not how it went. So congratulations to the Florida Gators, and congratulations to the Houston Cougars for making it to this point, and two really good programs. And I know for sure. I'm pretty sure Houston will be in this conversation again, and Florida's going to be doing everything in their power to be in this conversation again next season as well. Now, flip to the women's side because I'm more happy because UConn won. The team I predicted to win. Obviously, I'm a UConn fan, so that's who I was rooting for. And they didn't let me down, unlike Duke. But anyways, let's talk about the Final Four, the semis. You had South Carolina going up against Texas. It looked like Brooks had it going for Texas early. I think she had six early points, was 3 for 3, but picked up two really bad fouls early in the first quarter. And just without her being able to be her aggressive self on both ends of the floor, uh, Texas just kind of ran out of punch. And South Carolina does what they always do. Their veterans aren't the best from an offensive standpoint, and so they'll keep you in the game. But when Chloe Kitts and Malaysia Fawali come into the game, they do damage, and they were able to get it going, and they were able to pull away from Texas. Texas had moments where they tried to come back, but I think South Carolina just had too much firepower, and they were able to just get past Texas, get to the national championship again for an opportunity to have 3 titles in 4 years, which would have been crazy, right? They already had two in the last three, so yeah, it would have been three in the last four. UConn, they just crushed UCLA, right? They just kind of cruised past them. It really wasn't a competition at all. I don't even touch on that game. It just really wasn't a good showing for UCLA. I know they felt like they had a really good team. They were a number one seed, and they just didn't, represent themselves the way they had all season. And it happens, right? You just run into a better team, and UConn had been that better team. UConn had been going crazy the whole tournament, blowing teams out, and the national championship was no different, winning 82-59. Old classic BTA, take you behind the woodshed, um, beat down. Um, Sarah Strong, AJ Fudd had 24 points apiece. Of course, Paige Buckets added an additional 17. And here's the thing, UConn had too much firepower. If you guys remember when I talked about this game and this matchup, because I expected South Carolina to beat Texas, I expected UConn to beat UCLA, and this to be the matchup for the national championship. I said I'd start Malaysia. Like you have to. UConn had too much firepower. Like you had to start someone to give you a punch. And not only did she not start, she only played 18 minutes. So you didn't really give yourself a shot. Now, yes, UConn had started to really pull away. But I mean, what was it? I think it was a 6-point game at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not going to start her in the first half, I'm coming out and I'm making a change in the second half, and she's starting. She's giving me that punch right away. And Coach Staley stuck with her vets. That's what she had done all season. It got her in this program to another national championship, the third and fourth in 4 years. So who am I? If it worked, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's what you say. But sometimes you run up to a team where even if it's not broken, you need to make adjustments, and adjustments just weren't made. And UConn just demolished. Like this, what UConn did last Sunday or this past Sunday, it reminded me of the days, and somebody mentioned this on Twitter, like this beatdown reminds you of the days where UConn was just destroying teams, like 100-20, like stuff like that. And they were like, is UConn ruining the game because the talent discrepancy was just ridiculous, right? And this actually reminded me of that. Now, look, we know South Carolina's going to be back. Coach Staley's one of the best of all time. She's already getting some high-level recruits. The leading scorer in Division One just transferred over to South Carolina. Raven Johnson just announced she's returning. There's about 2 or 3 other um, student athletes that are in the transfer portal that might be going to South Carolina. So she felt some type of way. And when you get beat down like that, I would feel some type of way too. And so she knows that she's going to be back. She wants to make sure she has some firepower to be able to do that. And it helps when you get the nation's leading scorer from this past season. So looking forward to that. But look, UConn, they had felt like they were one of the better teams all season long, and they went out and proved it. And they're national champions. Man, it was amazing to see Paige walk off that court, embrace Coach Gino and everything that they've been together for the past 5 years. Just the injuries and the disappointments, and Final Four and national championship games, and for her to walk away in her career with one, and for Gino to Coach Gino to break the losing streak of not, in that drought, right? It was just good. I didn't tear up, but like my eyes got a little watery just seeing that, because Paige is one of my favorite players in the college game, and there was so much hype and so many expectations of her and what she would do for the UConn program, and kind of the continuity of their dominance, and to go that long, and during her tenure not having one, you knew, when talking about the UConn greats and everything she's accomplished, and of course she's a UConn great, that ring was going to be a part of that conversation. And so for her to kind of get that monkey off her back, that was really great to see. So shout out to UConn, my Huskies. They didn't let me down. Looking forward to next season, but maybe Duke can get it done. We'll see. But I know why you guys are here. I know why, and I don't want to spend too long on this. I'm going to share my screen. So I made 2 mocks. Okay, let me move that so I can see. There we go. So I made 2 mocks. I made one without trades, one with trades. So The one you're looking at currently is the one I made without trades. And my precursor to this is, look, this has nothing to do with any intel that have gotten. Of course, like maybe some of it has bias or created a bias in some of my decision making on this, but this these mocks, the with trade and without trade, are what I would do if I was in that room, if I had that opportunity, if these players are available when it's time to make a decision. That's what it is. So, like, you see Jaden Higgins in the third round, don't look at this and say, well, Jaden Higgins won't be available in the third round. Well, look, take that up with the simulator. I didn't do it. I didn't make it happen. It was a simulator. He was available. Of course, I went and drafted him. And here's the thing, just like a simulator is unpredictable, the NFL draft is extremely unpredictable. There are a lot of players right now that are in the top 60 prospects that are supposed to be picked in the first 2 rounds. Those guys might be third and fourth round draft picks, right? There are guys that are being invited to the NFL draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin right now that eventually will have to take a flight back home, and they're going to, when they do finally get drafted, we're going to see them on the couch with their families crying and like, man, they messed up. They messed up. They let a real one fall, but whatever. It's going to happen. It happens every year, right? The commentators going to be like, oh my God, I thought this guy was going to go top 15 and this pick 75 and he's still on the board. And I don't know what's happening and yada, yada, yada. So all that to say is y'all leave me alone. Like, I'm sorry. This is just who was available. And if these are people are available, I want them because they're really, really talented. Is that so wrong? Is that so wrong? Anyways, so this is my first mock without trades. At 9, Shador Sanders was available. Of course, you guys have heard the rumblings of the Saints' interest in him. Coach Prime was kind of doing a little overkill of I like the colors, but like we get it. I mean, would they be okay with the Saints? Yes. But do they want to be a top 5 pick? More importantly, go to the New York Giants? Of course they do. And here's my thinking. I think the Giants are still going to draft Shador Sanders. If, let's say, for example, Tennessee goes Cam Ward, Browns go Travis Hunter. Well, I think the Giants are going to pick a Shador Sanders over an Abdul Carter. I just think that at this point in time. But in this particular month, he fell to 9. And I think if he's at 9, I don't believe, like, if I'm in that room, I wouldn't go past him. You need a franchise quarterback. You need a quarterback of the future. Shador Sanders is that guy. He's the second best quarterback in this prospect in this class. Like, I know there are guys that have the upside and all that type of stuff, but just what he did last season, what he's done throughout his career, not just at Colorado, but at Jackson State. I mean, he can make an argument that he's the top quarterback in this class. But if he falls to me at 9, that's where I'm going with. So I picked Shador Sanders at 9. Then we got to the second round where I had picked 40 and Mike Green. Now, we've heard about some of the off the field stuff, which I think is starting to come out and be more like, that was just kind of a bad story. That stuff didn't really happen, that type of stuff. So, you never really know. I think Mike Green is a first round pick, but in this particular mock, he fell to the second round. If he's at 40, I'm running. Like, I'm running. I'm getting more than I'm going cardio and above to get that card in to our commissioner or the assistant commissioner, right? Or deputy commissioner, I should say. And I'm saying, hey, I want Mike Green, edge, Marshall, because he's arguably the best edge prospect in this class. And yes, that is including Abdul Carter. When you see this guy's pass rush repertoire and the moves that he comes out with, you need that. That's something we haven't seen in New Orleans in a long time. And to have him, at pick 40, you know, theoretically, he could be somebody that makes Grando expendable. And you pair him with Chase Young. Or, I mean, he's a guy that you can just continue to use and, you don't have to play him or start him right away. You can utilize some of the other guys that you're trying to phase out, but you have him come in his packages and eventually he takes over a spot. Mike Green is one of those guys. He's really, really talented. If he fell, I take him. And that's what I did. Now we get the third round. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, Iowa State. Big body. I think 6'4", 6'5". Love his route running ability for that size. Love the way his way to create separation. When I talked about him versus a Ted McMillan, right? I've said that Ted in ways, and again, the numbers show that he's a really great route runner as well. But like when I watch him a lot, sometimes I say, well, shoot, he's 6'5". Like it wasn't like he created a bunch of separation or anything like that. It was he's 6'5". He created enough of a window. He utilized his height. Jaden Higgins and his ability with his feet to create separation. And then at the point of attack, get the ball and high point it with his height and utilize his height well. Um, to get him in the third round would be an absolute steal. He's somebody I have my eyes on in the second round. But again, Mike Green fell, and I was like, I couldn't pass up on him. And I was like, I know I want to get a wide, like I know I want to get a pass catcher. And when I saw that Jaden Higgins was available, like, hey, hit the button, draft him. A guy that'd be great to pair with Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, brings that big body element, but I think he's not one dimensional. I think he can beat you in multiple ways. And I think that's kind of what you want. I think that's what, when you look at it, Kellen Moore's system, sorry, having guys that are diverse, and he spoke to that. Not having guys that are one-trick ponies that can do a lot of different things, within the system. I mean, how you tailor that to those guys. Jaden Higgins is one of those guys. You line them up outside, line them up in the slot. Have them run, routes across the middle. Have them run deep routes. Have them run comebacks. He has the whole tree. And I look forward to seeing the career he has. I got him at 71. At 93, I got Shamar Turner. Not Shamar Stewart that everybody's trying to mock us in the first round. Please stop. But Shamar Turner, over 300 pounds, a game record, a defensive tackle position. Always looking at the trenches. I think, where the Saints have to get better at and have more depth at is in the trenches. Of course, defensive tackle is starting to crowd itself, but I think there are some veteran guys that eventually phase out. So you still want to have a level of youth there at the defensive tackle position, along with Brian Brzee and what he's bringing as well. So Shamar Turner was somebody that I saw in the third round, and I made the most of that pick. Then we get to the fourth round, and I get Zai Alexander, cornerback out of LSU. Um, Everybody's kind of been talking about, hey, cornerback is a position that we have to add, even if it's not just getting a starter at that position, you're getting depth at that position. Zai Alexander fits both. Um, Now, I will say this: there's a level of bias with me. He did go to my alma mater, Southeastern Louisiana University, before transferring to LSU. Broke almost every FCS and school record from a ability to create turnovers and return those for touchdowns. He did that at Southeastern. Ended up obviously catching the eye of LSU. Didn't have the best tenure there, but it's mostly due to injuries, right? But I felt like when he was on the field, he made his presence known. And he's kind of a big guy. I think about, let me see. I want to fact check his height really quick because he's a pretty tall guy. Just never, yeah. So 6'2", 194, which is pretty good for a corner. And again, Zai, like, he has an ability to find the ball. I don't think it showed as much at LSU, but knowing what I saw, or knowing what I know and what I saw at the FCS level, what he was able to do at Southeastern, you don't just lose that ability to go get that ball. And I think the Saints, especially after losing Paulson Adebo, who had that ability to generate turnovers from the cornerback position, I think that's a guy that can slide in right next to Kool-Aid McKinstry on the outside. I think that's a guy that, hey, you don't want to start him right away. You want to continue to develop him. And you can maybe sit him behind Isaac Giddum or, and Sante Sammy Jr., whatever it might be. But he's a good guy to have on the roster, I think. Just, again, with his ability to take the ball away, his size at 6'2", um, it's invaluable, right? Like, I think that could be a really good addition for the New Orleans Saints. Um, then kind of go back to the later rounds. Ollie Gordon the second. Look, that's my guy. He came into the year as running back one, and I have not lost the faith in Ollie Gordon the second. Running back out of Oklahoma State, obviously had a down year that wasn't nearly as good as his Doak Walker year, the season before. And I can't say like they lost a lot because they pretty much brought their whole team back. But their starting quarterback, Alex Bowman, I think he just left his performances in 2023 and then bring it to 2024. And then that put a lot of pressure on Ollie. And he dealt with share injuries this year too, probably because of the workload he had the season prior. And so I think, he's a guy that could be a really good complement to Alvin Kamara. Um, he's a big body guy, but underrated explosion and explosiveness. was able to get some 75 plus yard runs. We haven't seen that in forever, right? So he has that big playability, just does it a different way. He can still attack. You can still utilize him in the passing game and things like that. Really good at pass protection. So we know that's something that rookie running backs struggle with the most, right? We see that with Kendre Miller. Yeah, he's trying to learn the system, but we saw in moments where they've tried to beat him on the field, but he struggled in pass protection. They have to take him off. And so Ollie Gordon already coming with that skill set, was really, really good. Young guy, still valuable. He's a running back, so to get him at the fifth I think this is the sixth round at this point, it's really, really good, I think. And to me, you still get a top 3 talent in terms of the running back position in this draft with Ollie Gordon the second. So, hey, if I'm the only one in the Ollie Gordon fan club, it is what it is. But I'm here. Uh, then go to Mitchell Evans, tight end out of Notre Dame. Just wanted to come away with another pass catcher, add to that tight end depth. I mean, right now we really just have TreJuanJohnson and my boy Thor at the tight end positions because Taysom Hill's coming off an injury. Foster Moreau is coming off an injury. So, and I know we just signed a tight end that played for Philly and Miami, but like, come on, to me that's a depth piece. Mitchell Evans, I really like him. And look, some of this is decal recruiting for me, and decal scouting. Haven't seen a bad tight end from Notre Dame yet. It's kind of hard. I mean, they just have a pedigree, right? Um, and so, you know, last year they weren't crazy throwing the ball. But what did he have last year? 43 receptions, 421 yards, 3 touchdowns. So nothing crazy, right? But having that depth at 6'5", 260 pounds, if you play at Notre Dame, you have to learn how to block. So we know he's coming in with that, maybe a more polished tight end than maybe a Juwan Johnson who made that transition over from wide receiver to tight end and still continuing to grow at that at still 28 years old, and is looking for a breakout year. So having another young guy to go with Hoker in that stable. There's still some guys on the trade market out there that we can look at. Dallas Goedert is still out on the trade market, right? Mayer is still Michael Mayer is still out on the trade market. I think I think he's a Notre Dame tight end as well. So, but I assume that maybe we didn't go get those guys or didn't have any interest in offloading draft capital to get those guys. Maybe wanted to develop more at that position. Maybe Foster Moreau and Taysom are coming along better than we know. And so I just wanted to, pick 184. Let's see what works, right? Let's see if he can come in, battle, see what he looks like in the preseason, right? Pick 248, 7th round, Willie Lampkin, one of my favorite players, and not from what I watched him during the season because I didn't watch much of North Carolina during the season. But what he did in that Senior Bowl and being an undersized guy and taking reps at guard and taking reps at center, showing that diversity as an athlete, I mean, it just resonated with me. And I want a dog like that on my team. I want to go to war with somebody like that. And so if he's available in that 7th round, and I know, hey, I need depth depth on the offensive line. I think I pretty much got my 5 starters, maybe even got the guys right behind them, but maybe I can have another guy that I develop, keep on the practice squad a little bit, and he can do some things with me for me at offensive guard and center. Willie's a ball player, and you need more of those. And I think you need more of those in New Orleans, and that's why I went and got him because he was available. And then look, I got Shador Sanders. Got to get one of his boys. Got to get one of them. So I got LeJohntay Wester, really explosive player with the ball in his hands and has chemistry with my ordained quarterback of the future, right? And want these guys to be comfortable. And I like the matchup. So I went with LeJohntay Wester. So that was mock 1. So when you guys give me y'all's thoughts, please keep them respectful, by the way. But when y'all give me y'all's thoughts, say, hey, mock 1 this or mock 2 this. So I kind of know exactly what you're talking about. So looking forward to that. Now, stop sharing that one and let me go to the mock with the trades. So this is mock 2. Mock 2 has the trades. And so here we go. As you can see, I traded back to pick 16, so I believe that was with the Arizona Cardinals. Not entirely sure everything I gave up, right? Um, but I know that I traded back. I got pick 16 and 47 for pick number 9. I think they drafted Aston Genty or something like that. And I'm here at 16, right? In my mind going into this, I knew I knew I was going to trade back into the first. Like I knew that was going to happen. I knew I was going to trade back into the first. I figured I was going to trade back into the first for a quarterback, whether that was Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, whatever it was. I figured I was going to do that. So let you know that was kind of my mindset going in. So that's 16. I see Jahad Campbell there, and he's a name that's been tied to the Saints at number 9. Really explosive athlete on the defensive side of the ball. A little bit of a tweener. Can play off ball, can play middle linebacker, and can play on the edge. And I think you have to be creative with him. I think he's a guy that can, uh, you know, start as one of your linebackers. And your 3-3-5 packages be available in that as well. And a guy you can utilize in the edge on pass rushing situations. You saw Alabama be able to use him in that manner later in the year, and he was really successful at that. I think about games versus Missouri, games versus LSU, where he really stood out as an edge rusher. But I do think there's a ways to go with that. I don't think he's going to be a full-time edge rusher. I think he's the successor um, to Demario Davis eventually, but I think you want to be able to utilize him in multiple ways. And we've used Demario in the past as a blitzer. And so I think, Jihad is really good at getting at the quarterback, committed to Alabama as an edge rusher before moving to off-ball linebacker. So he didn't lose the recipes as far as rushing the quarterback. So um, he was the best player available. I think it could have went a number of ways. It could have went pass catcher here. I think there were a couple edge rushers here, but I wanted to go linebacker. I wanted to go something new. And so I went Jahad Campbell. I think he's one of the best athletes in this class, and so I went with him. Then, as you can see, I went to I traded in back in to pick 32. So I used pick 40, and I think I did a second round pick next year or something like that. I think is how it is because like I said, I had pick 47. I already had a second round pick, so I was like, okay, I'll give them the highest. So instead of them moving down 15 spots and them asking me for more, I'm gonna let them move 8 spots. It's the freaking Eagles. I think they ended up getting like a superstar anyway, so it really didn't matter. They know how to draft. And I came in and I got Jalen Milroe. So why did I draft Jalen Milroe? Okay, well, Shedeur Sanders, obviously I didn't take him. Um, and and I thought to myself, okay, thinking about the quarterbacks our coach has had the most success with, thinking about how there's a chance and there's a likelihood that hey, we're not moving off of Derek Carr. We're going to just figure it out along the way, and we can have a guy that we can cash, and kind of sit and sprinkle him in. A Jackson Dart isn't a guy you sprinkle in, right? So I didn't bring him in. Kyle McCord isn't a guy you sprinkle in. I mean, Kyle McCord isn't a guy you really played first year or two at all, honestly. But like a Jackson Dart, if I drafted him, like I'm not going to sprinkle him into the game plan the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season. I'm not going to get anything out of that pick other than me developing him and then seeing if he's ready if things aren't going well with Derek Carr, whether that be performance or injury, which we've kind of seen both in his tenure as the New Orleans Saints quarterback, right? Who's a guy that fits what my head coach likes to do in season as quarterback. I mean, we forget that Dak Prescott also was a kind of a dual threat quarterback and utilized in the run game when he got drafted. And it wasn't until that ankle injury where we really stopped seeing that be a part of his game, right? And I can go get a Jalen Milroe who had a private workout. Some said it's impressive. And look, part of this is some intel of the guy's been on the radar. Like at one point in time, Shedeur Sanders was a pipe dream. Um, like fans weren't the only ones sad when Brian Brzee blocked that field goal, and we just knew we weren't going to have a top 6 in down pick, right? Like fans weren't the only ones upset about that. There were people in the building like, oh my God, like we're not going to get this guy. We won some games. Like, yes, we like to win games, but Jesus Christ, we've lost an opportunity at Cam Ward and Shador Sanders. And that Shador Sanders pipeline shrank a little bit, and it looked reasonable. And it might still be reasonable, but we don't know. There's still some opinions that he doesn't make it past 3, or that another team does make a crazy offer to Jacksonville or to Las Vegas to get in and get him. That's all possibilities. And so, hey, I picked Jalen Milroe, one, because he fits a style that our head coaches had success with. He's still a project that somebody needs to be worked with. He's not a day one starter. I don't think you really go in thinking you're getting a day one starter unless it's Cam Ward or Shador Sanders, right? So you get a chance to let him play, sit, develop, learn the game, continue to learn the game as a quarterback, but also sprinkle him into packages, whether that be running the ball, utilizing his passing ability, all these types of things. So I did that. Got my 5th-year option with him, which is great because, hell, if he doesn't play his rookie year, I still got 4 years to work with him. So I made that bet now. I didn't want to wait until 40. Could I? Theoretically, I could, but I don't think the Giants. When I looked at this, if I recollect, like the Giants hadn't taken a quarterback, so they could have went and gotten him. They could have went and gotten Jackson Dart, and so in my mind, I was like, neither of these guys are going to be available when I get to 40, and that's my mindset now. I don't think either of these guys will be available when you get to 40. So you're either trading back in the first round to get them, you're getting them at 9, which somebody might say is a reach, but hey, it's the quarterback position. You reach for it all the time, right? Or you try to trade up really, really early into the second round to go get your quarterback, whatever it may be, right? So that's why I went and got Jalen Milroe in this one. Then again, Mike Green fell. Like, this is not my fault, guys. Like, I don't believe this. Like, I think this guy is like not making it out of the 20s or making it to 20, right? But he was here at 47. And guess what the heck I did? I got somebody who I think is probably the best edge rusher in this class, pick 47. So I got, in my first 3 picks, right, I got 2 defensive stalwarts and a franchise quarterback in my mind. I got that done. So I feel good about that. If nothing else happened, I feel good about that. Then let's go to pick 71. I get Jack Besh. Louisiana folks know him from his time at LSU, transferred to TCU, did really, really well, had an amazing Senior Bowl. We know the tragedy about his brother passing during the terrorist attacks at New Orleans, and so we continue to keep that family in our prayers. But, talking about a guy that's I think he's about 6'3", 6'4", is a really good route runner. And I remember some of his take from LSU and what he was able to do as a route runner, and can high point the ball, can make contested catches. We saw a lot of that during the Senior Bowl. And we know the Saints love the Senior Bowl MVPs. This guy won it. This guy won it. Spencer Rattler won it last year. We drafted him. No, I'm just saying. It could happen. It could happen, right? Anyways, went and got him. So I get my big body receiver, my big X, who's diverse as well, much like Jaden Higgins is. Jack is diverse. He can play outside. He can play inside. He can run your deep routes. He can run your intermediate and your short routes. You can get the ball in his hands on the screen. He can make a few guys miss with some yak. Love it, right? Pick 93, Dorian Strong, cornerback, Virginia Tech. Now, I took some notes on Dorian because I don't know how familiar everybody is with him. I got to watch him a few times this season, and he flashed for me. And so, we know the Saints need a cornerback, or that they need to address that position. Even if they already have some guys in the free agency pool that they're going to go after, I think they still need somebody from a draft standpoint at that position. I'm able to get this guy in the 3rd round. 6 feet tall, 179 pounds, right? Here's the crazy thing, guys. We're talking about on the outside, we want somebody that's locked down. I talk about the Angola defense. Hey, this is what we do, right? He was the 2nd player in the FBS since 2014 to have, and I'm going to read this, 300 coverage snaps while allowing fewer than 10 receptions and 100 yards in a season. Yeah, you got that right. Not a game, or not per game, right? A season. He allowed fewer than 10 receptions and 100 yards receiving all year long. That's insane. That's somebody you put opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry, you put Alontae Taylor back in the slot, and you work with that. That type of production, right? looking at some scouting reports, excelled in press man coverage, which is really good. In this scheme, you're going to have to press. You're going to have to get on receivers at times in this match zone concept. Really good at ball tracking. They had 2 interceptions last year, but had a number of breakups, pass breakups as well. And he can really get some. So kind of looking at some of the weaknesses, right? They talked a lot about lack of hip fluidity at times, and maybe his pad level being inconsistent. And so they saw on film that he could get beat by some intermediate routes, some break-in routes at times. But again, the guy recorded or allowed less than 10 receptions and less than 100 yards in the season. So even with his deficiencies right now that could be coached, right? He was still dominant. And another thing, and look, another knock on him, right, was that he takes risks that can penalize him. Again, fewer than 10 receptions, fewer than 100 yards. So as many risks as he took, it didn't really equate to big plays being given up, touchdowns being given up, those types of things. And look, y'all know how I felt about Paulson Adebo and his ability to take risks. Sometimes it led to penalties and all that type of stuff. I want my cornerbacks aggressive. I don't ever want to coach the aggression out of them. If you want to get that ball and that's what your mindset is, I'm with you on that. And we're gonna win some, we're gonna lose some. But we're gonna win some. And those wins are gonna be pretty big wins. I can't coach the aggression out of you. I refuse to do that. And so Dorian Strong brings that aggression. He brings that, hey, yeah, I'm a third round pick, but you can put me on the outside right now, and I will give you the production that some of these first round guys will give you. That's it right there. That's it. Anyways, go on to fourth round. Olawufemi Oladejo, Edge, UCLA. I think we've seen him on a few scouting reports. I think he had just made the transition. I think last year was his first year playing Edge, so still raw, still a development, but we saw some production. I know it kind of goes into all the Saints with these development projects, but in the fourth round, we kind of have our edge. We already got Mike Green, right? We got Jihad Campbell who can contribute that edge. We still got Chase Young and Carl Granderson, who were both top 15 in pass rush win rate and pressures, right? You know what you got on the inside with Brian Brzee. You're adding the Gacho to that to help with the run defense. You still got old man Cam. He can provide you something. I hope still on the roster. Get youth in there. Get guys that can make some of those aging guys expendable, but you haven't yet necessarily spent a premium price on them. If he pans out, great. That's great value. If he doesn't, all right, it was a fourth round pick. We wanted him to be something, but I got Mike Green. I got Jihad Campbell. I'll be all right. I'll survive. Anyways, Taj Felton, wide receiver out of Maryland, another guy I took notes on. Just didn't know how many people are familiar with him. I got to watch him a little bit because with Coach Loxley up in Maryland, I tried to pay attention to what they were doing over in that football program. Um, and really good guy, good size, 6'2", 180 pounds. Last season had 96 receptions, over 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. Now, looking at some of his strengths, elite speed. So at that size, 6'2", 180, he can go. That guy can go. Creates really good separation, finds spots in zone coverage, so it has really good spatial awareness. Here's the kicker, guys. Yak. We love Yak. We need Yak. Yards after catch, baby. We haven't seen that since. I don't know. It's been a long time, but it feels like since Darren Sproles, I haven't really seen yards after catch when it came to the Saints. So, yeah, add that to my wide receiver room. Again, a 6th-round pick, right? Yeah, come on. If you pan out, great. If you don't, I spent a 6th-round pick on you. I'll cut you. I might not trade you, but I'll cut you. I'll put you on the practice squad so we can continue to develop you. At his size and his speed, hey, you can maybe put him as a gunner. And Arian Smith has been tied to the Saints as well. I think his speed, right, as a wide receiver, but I think also his ability as a gunner. Maybe you put a Taj Felton. When you're a 6th-round pick, when anything really past 4th round, you better, special teams is going to be really important to you, right, in your future. to make sure you try to get on the field and stay on the roster. And utilizing his speed can be big in that capacity. Utilizing speed in packages on offense can be big. So that was something I look for. Looking at some cons or some weaknesses in his game right now. At 6'2", 180, maybe he can gain a little bit more weight, be a little bit more strong. Some of the reports said, stronger DBs and more physical DBs can kind of get him off his route trajectory and things like that. And so you want him to be better at that, want him at that size to be better with contested catches, especially when you have that speed, right? When you have that speed, there's going to be a way defenses play against you, and there's going to be times where you have to make those contested catches, and we're going to need that. So those are some things you can work on. But at the 6th-round pick, working with Keith Williams, one of the best wide receiver coaches in the game, right? According to Brandon Cooks, let's do it. Let's do it. Clay Webb, another Senior Bowl standout. We love our Senior Bowl guys. At this point, how many Senior Bowl guys I think I have? I think Mike Green at the Senior Bowl? I don't remember. I think Mike Green may have been at the Senior Bowl. Jalen Miro was at the Senior Bowl. Jack Best was at the Senior Bowl. Taj Felton was at the Senior Bowl. Clay Webb, Senior Bowl. Trevor Etienne, Senior Bowl. Hey, this is what the Saints do. Like, it's right there in Mobile. They have access to these guys. They attacked that Senior Bowl. And Clay Webb was a guy that I really liked. Saw him playing some offensive guard, saw him playing some center. Again, much like Willie Lampkin in the previous mock. I want a guy with some diversity, but a guy that has shown some production. And he showed production at Jacksonville State, the offensive guard position. A guy that can come and compete at left guard, a guy that can be depth at left guard, a guy that can be depth at right guard, a guy that can be depth at center. It's a 6th-round pick. That's what I want to see, right? I like that. I like what I saw. I like what I saw with him competing against guys from Power 4 programs. I want that on my team. We need guys. We need some dogs, man. We need some guys that get it out the mud, that didn't get all the offers coming out, but grinded, busted their ass, got an opportunity to showcase themselves against some of the premier talent from some of the premier programs in college football. And they did their thing. They held their own. I want guys like that. Give me a Clay Webb. Put him on my team. I think him and Trevor Penny can do some damage. I think him and my tribal chief can do some damage on that left side. I like it. 248. I got Trevor Etienne. I think much like Ollie Gordon in that previous mock, and I talked about guys that are really good. I think Trevor Etienne is really, really good. Dealt with some injuries last year after transferring from Florida to Georgia. Didn't have the T season he wanted, obviously, because it was riddled by injuries. So much so that he decided to go to the league instead of entering, the transfer portal and maybe going to another team and having an opportunity to re-up his stock, right? He just wanted to take that chance. Dealt with the injuries. He's kind of a guy that can do it all. You want to lean on him, right? He said, yeah, I'm going to go to the league. I'm going to take my chance. But take your chance with New Orleans, baby. Take it with us. Because much like Ollie, the talent and putting this next to an Alvin Kamara in that running back room, oh, Lord have mercy. We can do some wonders with that. We can do some wonders with that. And a Louisiana kid, coming back home, I want that. Again, he's a 7th-round pick. He could pan out. He could not. But if he pans out, we got an Isaac Pacheco on our hands, baby. 7th-round pick running back, leading us to the Super Bowl eventually. That could be us. That could be us. Love it. And I've seen Trevor Etienne take over games, both at Florida and at Georgia. And even though it was at a limited, amount at Georgia because of the injuries he dealt with, like you saw, like that Texas game, they leaned on him and he took over. So I like it. And then Nick Martin, I wasn't really familiar with his game, but heard Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints podcast talk a lot about him and how he would be utilized. Like, I'd heard of Nick Martin. I think I even had him in some mocks, but I was just like, oh, he's a linebacker, right? Not really looking at what he could be. And looking at his height and weight profile and listening to Ross and how he analyzed them. It was a really good scouting report of, hey, this guy more than likely is probably going to be a safety, and you can develop him there, and being able to do that in a late round pick, like a 7th-round pick, that's really good value. And I like that, because I didn't get any safeties in this draft. I don't think I got any safeties in the last draft, which is kind of crazy because in my mind, if a safety I really liked was available, I probably would have gotten them, but they just weren't available. Or if they were, Mike Green was there. That's going to be my excuse for everything. So when y'all comment on this, my response to you will be Mike Green was there. Well, why did you pick Jahad Campbell at 16? Because Mike Green was there. Why did you pick Jack Besh? Because I got Mike Green before that. That's my response. Because that's the guy that I think is going that if we got him, immediate impact. Immediate impact. I love it. But those are my two mocks. Like I said, one with, one without draft. This is my one without drafts. Again, this is what I would do if I was in the room. You can insert whatever player you want in these situations and in these scenarios. I'm actually interested to know what you guys would do. So you see two mocks. Would you guys be in the trade back, acquire more picks camp? Would you be open to just standing pat and not doing any trades at all and making all nine of your selections? Or are you in the camp of, hey, I pick at 9 and then I trade back in and reduce the amount of draft capital I have, or do you kind of do a mix of what my mock 2 was, where I traded back, I got some additional capital, then I used some of that. No, knowing that I had some additional capital, I used some of what I already had, pick 40 in this year's draft, and then I think a third round pick or something in next year's draft, and then moving up to 32. So I want to know. Give me y'all's thoughts. What would y'all do in these scenarios? Are you team trade up, team trade back, team don't trade at all? Who are some prospects that you would love in these spots if they were available? Um, and just let me know what y'all think of my mock. I mean, I think I did okay. I think I fielded a good team. I think I fielded at the very least an NFC South champion. I think I did. That's how I feel. I don't know about Super Bowl. I don't know about perennial playoff contender and that stuff. But I think I got a NFC South champion. Maybe more so in the first one because I think Shador is a day one guy. I can put him in, and he's right. I think he's right. Maybe Jalen, he doesn't pan out for me this year. I gotta wait for next year, and we're figuring that out. But I like it. I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Anyways, as always in the show with, if there's anything that I said that offended anyone, right? That's a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn, and it's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.